welcome to module 5 on money, meaning, and purpose. So, the money game, James, it's important, isn't it, in this capitalist world where we've got to pay our bills and live. So, just being able to make enough money, I think there's the research out there is that it's a bit of diminishing returns of anything over, say, $70,000 a year. But it depends what you want and how comfortable you feel like you want to be, or what you want to sacrifice to actually make money. So in this term, James, we're going to go down, there's a few different avenues. You can either be an entrepreneur and you go out there and you try and create something yourself. You've got to have the ability to take a lot of failure and be open to risk. But with the risk, there's potentially high reward. Doesn't happen for everybody. Or you become an employee and you work for somebody else. You can work your way up, and then, or you might inherit if you're lucky, and money's not a problem. And it's more of the purpose side where you're trying to elevate yourself. So it depends where we are. If we start off with entrepreneurship, James, what would you say in terms of improving somebody's life who is an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I would, in the broadest sense of the term, consider myself to be an entrepreneur. But that's a definition, isn't it? And do we want to put a label on ourselves in that respect? But I think usually these people are individuals who are dissatisfied with the world as it currently exists or stands, and they want to improve it in some way, and they've got a burning ambition to birth something into the world to make an impact. That's possibly oversimplifying it, and that sounds a bit utopian, but that's usually the situation, isn't it? They've got something that they want to do, and they're usually individuals who are quite eclectic, tend to be fairly erratic. Ideas are sort of coming and going, and it's all a little bit hectic. And you need people around them to bring structure and direction. And it's finding those individuals that can do that. So I think a superpower of an entrepreneur is to be able to identify the people that are smarter than them and have those capabilities to provide that structure and direction, because we can be pretty erratic. Like I said, you can be going off in lots of different directions. And it is identifying the team that can keep you going in the direction that you need to go in to actually make this thing a reality. So you've got lots of ideas in your head, but it's actually whether you make that thing exist in the world. And we can think in our heads that we've got a great idea, but don't actually do anything with it. And it's that fear thing. It's safe and it's comfortable to have the idea in your head, and you've got it fully fleshed out, and you know what it looks like, and you know what it feels like. And this is how it's going to change the world. But you don't actually do anything with it. So it's the rare individual that does actually go, well, I know what I want to do, and I'm going to do it, immaterial of what the outcomes are. I just know that I feel compelled to make this thing exist in the world. And they then take the steps to make that happen.
Yeah, because entrepreneurship has been given a bit of a fairy tale label, because you see the people at the pinnacle of success. It's like watching Messi and Ronaldo. You see those type of people and you think that's normal. Whereas most Yeah, most small businesses or most businesses are not in that place. You might be working twice as hard as everybody else and earning, half as much as what you could do if you just got a job. But they say sort of 90% of businesses fail in the first 3 years, but there is other schools of thought that it's your ability that 90% of founders succeed after 20 years of failure. So there is the reverse to that ability to try something, keep going when it doesn't work, learn, iterate,
Learn from
do the
failure.
simple, learning from failure, doing the simple things extremely well, finding a product market fit. But also there's a huge amount of timing that goes into a lot of these things. You can make your own luck without a doubt, but you might be too early for the market, you might be slightly too late. So it's just being able to ride the wave enough for it to potentially, for something to work out, or to work hard enough in one direction and have that focus. Because I think when it comes to business and money, a lot of it is to do with focus, your ability to sit down, be very focused and diligent with what you're doing. And potentially it's not so sexy. A lot of the things behind the scenes when it comes to it are doing a lot of repetitive tasks that can be boring, wearing a lot of hats and doing them over and over again, doubling down on what works. So I would say to people, if you're out there, you want to be an entrepreneur, definitely it's different for different ages. You might have a lot more responsibility. If you're younger, try and just cut your overheads as much as possible and give yourself enough room that you can breathe, and you're sort of protecting your downside. You're de-risking as much as possible. And it goes back to that belief, James, doesn't it? At the beginning, you've
got to almost be maniacal, haven't you, in terms of the belief, and just not accepting if other people say, well, you can't do it, or you just don't accept it. You just do it. But what I would say as well, with hindsight, is perfectionism is the death to any venture.
Yeah,
you've got to be diligent, but the perfectionism very, very rarely works.
Yeah. So starting that waiting list, isn't it? Seeing if there's a market for what you're offering out there, seeing people are willing to buy it, generating that demand before you've even got the service or the product. And seeing if there is a market.
That minimal viable product, get it out there, test it, get the feedback from it, and then iterate on it, improve it, test it again, get the feedback. And then it's the ability to pivot if it doesn't work, not to be so connected and tied to that emotionally that you can then say, well, that clearly didn't work. The market's telling me it's not working, so let's pivot. Doing that quickly, changing, being agile, that seems to be a common kind of practice as well. So I guess that's entrepreneurship in a nutshell. But really,
knowing yourself, James, isn't it? On that side, it goes back to our second module of knowing thyself, where you want to maybe fill in the gaps of where you're not so proficient. If you're the introvert person, you might not be the leader who wants to jump on stage and talk about what you're doing. You might have, Steve Jobs had the Wozniak, who was in the back end doing the tech stuff, and he was the front end. He was the voice of it. So, you've got to be able to. That's self-awareness to know, like you said at the beginning,
what your
James,
strengths are.
See what your strengths are. See if you can build a team around you of people that are smarter than you, better than you. It's difficult at the beginning in any venture because you've got to wear all the hats at the beginning and do whatever you can, sleeping on the office floor, doing whatever you can to get this thing going. And it's hard. You just got to put you got to put your hands up and say, I believe this is the way forward. I can do this. but you are like shooting into the unknown. I know Elon Musk said it's like eating glass and staring into the abyss.
Yeah. And who are you doing it for is another question to ask yourself. It's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And again, it brings us back to the void, doesn't it? If it's you're trying to prove something to yourself or to your father, your mother, whoever, somebody that a teacher that said something to you at school that you weren't going to ever amount to anything, or, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And that's, again, that questioning as to, am I trying to fill a void? Because if it is the void that you're trying to fill, that's a big old space to try to stuff things in. And it's a hungry space. And it will take whatever it is you're wanting to give it. So I think there's that work to be done. Maybe it's, who knows what the course of events are, that you start something and this catalyst event or catalytic event starts as a result, that you're then starting off this process, that you begin setting up a business, and during the course of that, you then start to look inward and say, well, why am I doing this? So
the Simon Sinek book sort of start with why, trying to figure out
why.
Some of the most powerful businesses, aren't they, James, if they have like a real strong why? Because when it inevitably gets hard and you change in direction, if you've got
that's
that
what you
anchor,
come back to.
You've got a bit of
why
an
did I start
anchor
this in the first place?
Yeah, it is helpful. But you've worked with James billionaires, haven't you, in your business? I've worked with very successful entrepreneurs. I would say I'm an entrepreneur myself. I wouldn't say I'm a necessarily natural entrepreneur or a good one at that. Creative in some sense, but still learning along that process.
Absolutely.
But the people that I've seen that are very, I would say, they might not be successful in other parts of their lives, like relationships or health. But when it comes to money, I've seen these people, they're very action orientated.
Single-minded, very focused.
When they say they're going to do something, they move at speed as well. They get things done, and that, don't underestimate your ability. Go from the idea to some type of action. Some people wait, they want to figure out the business name, they want to get the logo. I've been there. They want to design the nicest website, they want to build this whole system, get a year and a half, 2 years down the line, and realize no one wants it, and you've just wasted your time. And the other person who is basically, they're on about their fifth idea that they've tested for 6 months, and they're way ahead. They've already known
in that, getting the logo right, getting the website looking amazing and working. But again, as you said, you've focused so much on that because it's within your control, it's safe. As soon as you put this thing out into the world, you've got no idea how it's going to be received. So whilst you're spending all of that time on getting it right, or in your head getting it right, and you think it's going to have a better chance of success, you're missing the boat.
Yeah.
So yes, it does have to look professional. Yes, it has to have had some thought put into it, but at the expense of actually getting it out into the world, it's not going to work.
Yeah. So if people are saying, there's some people out there saying they've got a business idea, you see them next year, still no business idea. People saying, I really want to write the book. You speak to them a year later, no book. You say the people that say they want to start a YouTube channel, get back to them in a year, no YouTube channel. It's like, how many times have you made the excuse of, right, I want to do this, when the other person has literally done it in a day? They've literally set it up, starting, and they say, like, it's easier to change direction on a bike when the bike's moving.
Yeah.
So at least you're on that bike, you're on that trajectory of making some, like, building some momentum with whatever you're doing, and you just find your way. But I think because from my background, coming from a poorer background, something that we touched on before is that mindset around money between people who have it and don't. And I would say I came from a very scarcity based mindset around money. My granddad
I've
would walk
smiled then because we've had many, many conversations about your upbringing, mate. So just to
about
give it some context.
the council estate background.
Yeah.
But my granddad would walk, say, an extra 5 miles to get 10p off a pint of milk, whereas the rich granddad might have just paid
Sent
an extra
somebody else.
10p
Yeah, sent
for the
somebody else to
milk
do it whilst they were
and
making
and
10
spent 2
times
hours
that.
figuring out how to make more money.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you
And
keep
that's one of the biggest takeaways that I get from my very successful clients is that, they don't paint their own houses. They don't cut their own grass.
yeah.
They get other people, and you'd say, well, yeah, but they can afford to do that. Well, they do that because they know that A, that's probably not something that they enjoy doing, but B, they are utilizing their time to make money or
Yeah.
being productive or protecting their energies to be able to go and do what they do. So it's a false economy for them to do it themselves.
Yeah. A lot of context to this though, isn't it? Because James, because it is, if you haven't got the money, obviously you got to try and be creative. I'm not saying you need
Yeah.
money to start a business, but it is scary because you
Yeah.
think, but these people that are successful, they have the ability to see quickly what the highest value tasks are, and they prioritize high value tasks very quickly and act on them. So if their high value task is to hire people and recruitment, like you said, that's all they concentrate on. If their highest value task is to do the sales call, then that's what they're focusing on. They're not worrying
Yeah.
about, setting up, reorganizing their email into alphabetical order because
No.
it doesn't make any difference. They're
Yeah.
not
It's not
automating
moving
before
the
they've got
needle.
any clients. You see some
Yeah.
people, they're automating, getting the systems in place. They've got no leads, no clients. They're scaling before they've even got a product.
Yeah.
So I would say those are some of the fundamental characteristics that we've witnessed. And it does take a lot of courage, and you got to understand your conditioning as well, because maybe entrepreneurship might not be for you, or maybe you're in a position where you've got no choice but to be an entrepreneur because you've got nothing else to fall back on, and you've just got to push yourself towards it and just do something. You got to take that leap and do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the other option is to you get a job and you try and figure out where your skill set is. James, is that would be the next step for us?
Yeah, I think so. But I just want to draw everyone's attention, our attention to, the extremes of advice that's out there. You've got from one side of the grind, you've just got to keep grinding, going at it, go big or go bigger. So you've got that element of it that it's like, if you really want to succeed, and we've got to caveat this with saying, well, what is your idea of success? What is your concept of wealth? It might be relationships. It might be relationship with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, whatever. That might be success for you. All right. So it doesn't have to be monetary, and wealth doesn't have to be monetary. You can be abundant in so many different ways. Abundant in, what you give in terms of yourself to other people, if that's, something that's important to you. So at the end of the day, the definitions that you wish to put on this, it doesn't have to be about the money. It doesn't have to be about, possessions. And I would really start to direct people to look at an alternative to that in terms of the materialistic, of what fulfills you.
Yeah.
What really fills you up. Because if you attach so much to the outcome, this is where the sort of burnout starts to come in. And that's going to be part of the PDF that we put in terms of just going at any cost and then burning out. So as I said, there's the sort of extremes of grind and do it at any cost. And then you've got like being in flow state and just letting the universe take care of itself. You've got these two extremes. Now, whilst I don't subscribe to either specifically, kind of how can we bring it to the middle and say, yes, you've got to work hard. You can't compensate for that. You've got to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you've got to do it consistently. But also building in recovery and that awareness about why you're doing it in the first place. What is it all for? What is the why?
And having that ideal lifestyle, that ideal day of like, how much really would it cost to have your ideal life? If you figure that out, where you would like to live, what you would like to do when you wake up in the morning, because realistically, for a lot of us, your work, it is your life. It makes up most of your day, doesn't it? So, if you've got a goal and it's a monetary goal, and you think, I'm going to sacrifice myself, I'm going to work for this goal. Let's say you're an investment banker, you do it for 10, 15, 20 years, and your aim is to retire. Okay, that's fine if you want to do that. But if you want to do something with more longevity and you're happy to take, a lower income potentially, especially if it's a business and you're not, in the first 5-10 years, then it's your prerogative to do it that way as well, isn't it, James? There's no right or wrong, and it's just understanding what you and your family really want, and you're trying to improve your skills continually, because that's really the only thing you can bank on. And that's the difference between making money. It's a skill, isn't it? And everything that you're doing or learning or experimenting with will be part of you learning a new skill and improving on that, hopefully.
Yeah. And we're looking to people's relationship with money as well, how you grew up around money, whether you grew up, like you said, in challenging circumstances, and how money was talked about. Was it referred to as the root of all evil, in which case you grow up with that belief system that actually money corrupts ultimately, and in the hands of the wrong people, it's power, it's coercion, it's used for nefarious means, as opposed to being used for good and to the betterment of the population, freedoms, etc. So your emotional response to money, either you draw it to you or you push it away. So those are the things that we'll look into again and start to question what your relationship was with money growing up, your financial situation with your parents will massively influence how you feel about money now and what it represents.
Hugely. And one of the best ways in terms of trying to, earn enough or keep enough money is just don't get into conspicuous consumerism and spending. Don't spend more than you earn if you can. Don't maybe think about why you're buying the Chanel handbag. Do you really need this? Do you need X amount of things? Do you need endless clothes? And are you trying to
the void?
Yeah, are you, because the consumerist nature of society now, is there a lot of people buying stuff to fill a void within themselves? Start questioning, could you decrease the amount you spend? Then you have to maybe work less, so you change your lifestyle. It depends what you value, what you prioritize. And Raval Navikant, the entrepreneur, said one of the best things you could do is just find something that you find is play and others find as work, and find your sweet spot, your niche in a society with some very specific knowledge that you find quite easy and enjoyable. Because you'll find a lot of successful people retirement's sometimes not even in their mind, is it, James?
No, they don't look at retirement in the same way. I mean, I've got clients in their 80s, and retirement is the furthest thing from their mind because it's just their life. There's not this delineation between working and not working. They're just continuing what they've always done. So it is a mindset thing in that respect, but maybe it's just the life of being employed that has that sort of finite time that you're employed up to 65. I mean, that will increase as the years go on, but that then represents retirement. You get your carriage clock or whatever, your handshake, and then off you go and tend your garden for whatever time you've got left, go on holiday, etc. So it's whatever's relevant to you.
Yeah, and some people love it, don't they, James? They love it. I know people that have got jobs, they love it. They love the community of their job. They like what they're doing.
Yeah.
They've got the safety. They like to switch off on the weekend. They like to have there's so many benefits if you're in the right space, but sometimes if you're in the wrong job, it's just acknowledging that, having the courage to actually maybe look for something else, speak to a manager, try to get into a different position, because it is about that self-awareness and the courage to speak up and know yourself about where you're going to flourish best. Maybe you would flourish as a business. A lot of people won't be good entrepreneurs. Some people are great in businesses, and it's just finding where you fit, where your skill set is,
and what you'll accept for yourself. Again, advocating for yourself. It all comes back to those fundamentals that we did. Module 1 and 2 is just how you feel about yourself, what you feel you deserve. Can you advocate? Ask what you want. Is that possible?
And there is that story. I'll leave you with a story of the fisherman who gets a guy who's a banker come over and says to the fisherman, right, why don't you scale this business? Look, you've got this fishing business. You go out to fish, you come back, you could have 3 boats, 5 boats, people work for you. And the fisherman's just like, okay, what next? So then you can have more money, and then he says, okay, what next? So you can have another house, and you can then rent that house. It's like, okay, so what next? So you'll have enough money then to basically go out and do fishing. And he's like, well, that's what I'm doing now. It's like, you got to think about, are you going full circle? What are you doing all of this for? Are you basically on this, they call it the hedonic treadmill, where was whatever you have, whether it's the new Ferrari, we've had clients, haven't we, James, where they buy a new Ferrari, within 3 weeks it's collecting dust, they're bored of it, they're already thinking about moving it on, because you become used to anything really in the material world. And if it hasn't touched your soul, if you're not in touch with yourself, there's really nothing in the material world that's going to do it. It's not going to do it, is it, really, James? So that's important. So that purpose, finding your purpose, what you're good at, what the market wants, and where your skill set that you can keep improving gradually can to fit in to this equation to survive and then thrive really in this society. Because things are changing quick with AI, and this kind of course is going to be super important, because you're going to have to be adaptable, sort of like is it the Darwinian sort of effect?
Survival of the fittest.
The survival of the fittest, or the survival of the most adaptive. So, and that's going to be part of your mindset.
We will do a meditation on abundance. So having an abundance mindset as opposed to Mindset.
Yeah,
Scarcity
scarcity
mindset.
mindset. So it sounds sometimes a bit corny, a bit cheesy, but just I would say be open-minded to it, be self-aware, bring in those different thoughts and beliefs and actions, because that's what's going to result in different outcomes. If you just stick what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So
yeah,
be open with this stuff.
Homework is just to take a look at your finances. Just open up your bank statements, look at
take a look at your
on.
Finances, and I would say as well, we'll put down in a PDF to note down your ideal day. What would your best ever day look like? What would you like to do? What kind of people would you like to be around? What time would you like to wake up? What would you like to eat? How long would you like to spend with your family? Yes, this can seem a little bit in dream world if you've got a 9 to 5, you've got bills to pay, but just use it as the building blocks, a framework of what you would like, and then try and work towards that type of lifestyle with whatever job you have or whatever business you might set up, a side hustle, and then work towards that in the future, because anything's possible now, isn't it, James? With tech, AI, you can have a side hustle and build that into something.
It's easier than ever. But again, it's the mindset thing to believe that is possible. Simple
100%. Okay, then, James, we'll add more articles on this as the years go by, and then we'll keep updating, because it's again very nuanced subject, and it depends on what exactly you want. But that's the framework, the mindset behind it. Put that into practice. Action's so powerful, James.
Massive action.
You can consume. Are you a consumer or are you a creator? Sometimes you got to put the consuming down and get into creator mode. So we'll leave it there, James, and we'll see you on the next module. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Much love. Bye-bye.